At least 10 inmates surround one correction officer inside Rikers. There's a disturbance. The officer is out of frame. When he's back on camera, you can see him clutching his face.
And sources say the 27-year-old inmate approached the victim from behind and choked him with his hands. Corrections officer tried to pull the inmate off of the victim, but they were unsuccessful.
Inmate at the Suffolk County Jail has been charged with violent felony assault after allegedly attacking a 26-year-old correction officer last week. CBS 2's Jennifer McLogan shows us the video that prompted the charges.
Inmate Stephen Reed running free toward an unauthorized catwalk jailhouse tier shortly after attacking a correction officer inside the Suffolk County Jail in
Nassau County. A high-ranking nurse at the Nassau Correctional Center is now an inmate herself.
Yasmin Talbot is accused of having a prohibited relationship with an inmate and helping him acquire a weapon. Now county officials are sending a warning to anybody thinking about sneaking illegal contraband behind bars.
All of you, Monroe County Sheriff's deputy has been arrested after allegedly robbing and beating a person in Greece.
20-year-old Selena Sonmez and 21-year-old Brandon Judice were taken into custody today. We're told Judice is a deputy employed in the Monroe County Jail Bureau.
A man who was already in jail allegedly beat a fellow inmate, to death. Seditas said that 19-year-old Tyshawn Ball is being charged with second-degree. Law enforcement sources tell News 4 Ball punched an unnamed inmate in June. That unnamed inmate, I'm told, joined a fight already happening. I'm told once deputies broke up the fight, Ball attacked that unnamed inmate. That inmate apparently fell and hit his head. He died last month.
A dozen inmates at the Albany County Correctional Facility are now arrested for allegedly inciting a riot inside the prison. According to the Albany County Sheriff's Office, the 12 inmates tied off gates to a specific part of the jail yesterday. The inmates are then accused of grabbing brooms and mops, threatening to use them as weapons.
New York's county jails have long stood at the crossroads of violence, overcrowding, and institutional decay, places where city and county governments wrestle with rising crime, shrinking budgets, and growing public outrage. From the towering walls of Rikers Island to the smaller but equally volatile facilities in Nassau, Albany, Monroe, Suffolk, and Erie counties, the pattern is unmistakable, a system buckling under pressure. Each jail tells a version of the same story: officers attacked in broad daylight, detainees beaten or deleted in their cells, contraband and corruption feeding chaos behind locked doors. These facilities are meant to hold those awaiting justice, but too often they have become environments defined by fear, desperation, and systemic neglect. What follows is a look inside New York's most dangerous county jails, where daily survival depends on luck, vigilance, and the thin line between order and collapse.
It's released new video tonight of two Rikers Island correction officers being attacked. One incident happened Wednesday when an inmate sucker punched an officer standing in the hallway. The other incident happened about 2 weeks ago. An inmate charged an officer, pitting him against a wall, then started punching and choking.
Some other news this afternoon. A Rikers Island inmate who was captured after attempting to escape last Thursday tried to escape again today. Authorities say 37-year-old Arthur Brown climbed a fence at around 9 this morning during recreation. He was quickly caught on a rooftop. Last week, Brown scaled a wall and jumped into the river in an apparent attempt to swim to freedom.
Rikers inmate was by another inmate, and the alleged attacker is believed to be a Trinitarios gang member. And sources say the 27-year-old inmate approached the victim from behind and choked him with his hands. Corrections officer tried to pull the inmate off of the victim, but they were unsuccessful.
After one of their own was brutally beaten by gang members at Rikers. He is now in critical condition, that officer, and the beating captured on video now sparking outrage at the chaos at Rikers.
Those four people in there, they may look like kids, but they damn near killed this correction officer.
All 18 years old, already locked up at Rikers for violent crimes, including attempted. Today, the known gang members were facing a judge for their alleged role in the brutal attack of a correction officer Saturday night. Authorities say that Stephen Espinal sucker punching Jean Souffrant. Other inmates then stomp and beat the unconscious 39-year-old. Officials maintain Espinal planned the savage attack and, referring to the officer in a recorded call, said, quote, "Yo, He acting like a super cop. Had recently cited Espinal for refusing to remove a covering on a window in his cell.
The officers and captain involved face charges of reckless endangerment and official misconduct. Handcuffed correction officers quietly entered the courtroom, inside only uttering the words, "Not guilty. Not guilty. Not guilty. Not guilty." Outside, the family of Nicholas Feliciano holding his picture, making noise.
At the end of the day, even though these officers are going to get charged, my Nicholas will never be the same due to the amount of damage that was done to him.
Plagued with ongoing problems and the center of a major city controversy is New York's main jail complex, Rikers Island. This year in New York City, 18 people have died while in jail or correction department custody. The latest one in Rikers. And 16 died last year. And now a damaging report from the Board of Correction blames the staff in the deaths of 9 incarcerated people, saying they missed medical visits, which played an indirect factor.
The Department of Corrections has confirmed that 3 of its employees have been suspended as it investigates what went wrong. According to officials, 29-year-old Ardit Billa was found unresponsive in his jail cell on Rikers Island early Saturday morning by a captain and an officer conducting a tour. He was pronounced dead a half-hour later. According to court documents and a criminal complaint, Billa was arrested earlier this year for assault and petty larceny. He was being held at a unit that offers mental health programs. The organization Freedom Agenda has been leading the charge to try and shut down Rikers, citing a history of inhumane conditions and racial inequities.
The sprawling Rikers Island jail complex has become a front line of violence and dysfunction in New York City's jail system. In mid-2021, the Bronx District Attorney announced 37 indictments stemming from vicious attacks inside the complex that included stabbings, beatings, and even pouring boiling water on other detainees. Many of these assaults occurred when assailants overwhelmed lone officers before repeatedly stomping or slashing fellow inmates. By early 2025, the NYC Comptroller's Office reported staggering rates of violence. In February alone, there were 53 assaults on staff, 15 slashings or stabbings, and 542 inmate fights. In March, the numbers climbed: 60 assaults on staff and 609 fights. Meanwhile, 3 people died within 2 weeks in custody on Rikers, prompting advocates to say the jail is in a state of absolute emergency of violence and neglect. These numbers reflect a broader and longer-term trend. A year-end 2024 report described conditions as well above the already unconstitutional levels of violence that triggered federal oversight in 2015. The report showed that stabbings and slashings had peaked at 88 per 1,000 detainees in FY 2022 and remained near those levels in 2024. The Federal Monitor has flagged serious questions about data reliability, yet, even with doubts, the evidence of harm is clear. Guards describe walking into tinderbox housing units where detention and gang control go unchecked. Inmates speak of streaks of panic and terror at night, and family members demand answers about deaths and beatings behind bars. In May 2025, U.S. District Judge Laura Taylor Swain stripped the city of full control over the facility and appointed a remediation manager to take direct oversight of operations, citing the extraordinarily high rates of violence, stabbings, fights, and staff assaults that continue unabated. The decision formalizes what many already feel. Rikers isn't just failing, it is in crisis. Taken together, the surveillance, the death toll, staff injuries, and housing unit rebellions reinforce a grim reality. Rikers is more than overcrowded, it is dangerously uncontrolled, with institutional rot and violence that threaten both inmates and the men and women charged with custody. For any documentary investigating the most violent jails in America, Rikers stands out as a stark, unresolved case of systemic failure.
With her head tucked low, dodging cameras underneath her hoodie, Nassau County Jail nurse Yasmin Talbot of Levittown and former inmate 37-year-old Christopher Wright arrive in court for their indictment and arraignment. Nassau County District Attorney Ann Donnelly says the 48-year-old nurse manager, who was the second highest ranking nurse at the Nassau County Correctional Center, carried out a secret relationship with Wright, sending him money and accepting 400 phone calls, mostly from him and other inmates. sharing confidential information about inmate locations. Prosecutors say she even brought this ceramic blade into the jail for Wright. Deadly weapon was found on Wright a month later during a body scan. Investigators say without his cooperation, they went through his previously recorded phone calls. That's when they say they discovered Talbot was involved. Her attorney speaking briefly outside.
Yeah, so Antoinette, those two correction officers are accused of using excessive force against an inmate at the jail, and the leader of the K-9 unit is facing allegations of animal abuse. And this is only the latest scandal to hit this troubled facility. Shocking allegations against two Nassau correction officers. The Sheriff's Office of Internal Affairs confirming to News 12 they're investigating allegations of excessive force against an inmate.
Members of the Correction Officers Union attended the arraignment of Angel Hernandez. The 22-year-old was already on jail and charges including attempted murder when officials say he assaulted a correctional officer in the jail's visiting room last month. The officer was knocked unconscious.
Discoveries tonight after a recent raid at Nassau's correctional facility. County Executive Bruce Blakeman today saying correction officers uncovered dangerous weapons and drugs, including shivs, razors, and other contraband belonging to inmates. But Blakeman says he feels confident with his new team that dangerous weapons like these will no longer be an issue.
Another inmate is found dead on Rikers Island. Esaias Johnson was being held on a fugitive arrest warrant and was found unresponsive in his cell around 9:45 this morning. This comes amidst a call for reform at the massive correctional facility.
Long plagued by dangerous conditions, the Nassau County Correctional Center remains a deeply troubled facility. A U.S. Department of Justice review from 2000 already documented detainees being terrorized by so-called beat-up crews and punished by guards for minor violations. More recently, in March 2020, a pretrial detainee alleged he was stabbed with a homemade weapon. While officers briefly left the dormitory, he required 19 stitches to his forearm. In January 2024, a nursing supervisor was indicted for conspiring to smuggle a ceramic blade into the jail and deliver it to a gang-affiliated inmate. Prosecutors warned that such staff corruption creates potentially dangerous conditions for both inmates and officers. In September 2025, a man held under an immigration detainer died in his cell, and the nonprofit Latino Justice publicly condemned the facility for allowing the death of an ICE detainee under its watch. Taken together, media investigations, civil rights complaints, and official disclosures present Nassau's jail as one beset by rampant contraband, understaffing, and overlapping violence, not only among inmates, but also between staff and detainees.
Tonight, your first look at what happened inside the Albany County Jail last week that has left two inmates facing assault charges and a corrections officer staring at a litany of felony counts.
Just released surveillance video of an apparent attack on an inmate at the Albany County Jail by a corrections officer and two.
An Albany County corrections officer arrested. Police say 15-year veteran Craig Strizzi assaulted an inmate at the Albany County Correctional Facility. They say it happened on Wednesday. Strizzi allegedly, along with two other inmates, punched the victim in the head and the body. Police say Strizzi then filed a report saying that the victim threw the first punch.
Two women are suing Albany County, the Sheriff's Office, and the county jail, alleging they were raped and sexually abused while incarcerated. One lawsuit alleges a woman was multiple times, which resulted in a pregnancy while she was incarcerated between July 2014 and March 2015. The woman's attorney tells me the pregnancy was confirmed by the jail. She requested and received an abortion, and no investigation was conducted. In another lawsuit, a woman was allegedly raped by a corrections officer in February 2018. The complaint points to a lack of action following the woman reporting the assault.
29-year-old Irene Bamenga was detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement after ICE refused to let her leave the country. Her husband says ICE picked her up when she was trying to get into Canada to fly home to Paris. He thought she would be free within a day. Eventually, she was brought to the Albany County Jail. The lawsuit claims ICE agents took the position Bamenga was really trying to enter the U.S. illegally. Her U.S. visitor's passport was expired. Her husband was living in the U.S. legally. According to the lawsuit, Bamenga needed to take medicine for chronic congestive heart failure. The lawsuit says everyone named in the lawsuit knew about her condition and had her medicine, but didn't do what they should have done to make sure she got it. Sheriff Craig Apple is among those named. He told me only that he thinks his office will not be found liable.
Inmates at the Albany County Correctional Facility are now arrested for allegedly inciting a riot inside the prison. According to the Albany County Sheriff's Office, the 12 inmates tied off gates to a specific part of the jail yesterday. The inmates are then accused of grabbing brooms and mops, threatening to use them as weapons. The Sheriff's Office says they also put soap and water on the floor to make it harder for corrections officers to stop them.
Albany County Correctional Facility has drawn sharp criticism for alleged abuse in unsafe conditions. In August 2025, a corrections officer was arrested and charged with assaulting a handcuffed detainee, an incident that amplified long-standing complaints from advocates who say prisoners have been beaten, denied medical care, and held in unsanitary units. Civil rights groups have since rallied for independent civilian oversight, pointing to cases like Marky Norwood's 2024 lawsuit, which alleges he was swarmed by officers, beaten unconscious, pepper sprayed, and hospitalized with a fractured eye socket. Claims that spurred protests and a legislative jail tour where several county lawmakers described conditions as deplorable. The sheriff has publicly disputed many allegations, noting internal reviews and saying existing oversight mechanisms are in place, while commissioning a feasibility study to add air conditioning and highlighting an expanded on-site transitional housing program as a reform effort. Together, these developments portray a jail under intense scrutiny, where reports of staff on inmate force, medical neglect, and cleanliness problems coexist with piecemeal fixes and ongoing calls for outside accountability.
To all of you, a Monroe County Sheriff's deputy has been arrested after allegedly robbing and beating a person in Greece.
20-year-old Selena Sonmez and 21-year-old Brandon Judice were taken into custody today. We're told Judice is a deputy employed in the Monroe County Jail Bureau. Police say these two robbed and beat the victim, who was known to them, in a parking lot around 1 this morning on Ladder Road.
Sheriff Baxter says that he is deeply sorry for what Daniel's family went through when their loved one died here at this facility. The two deputies who have been found to be responsible were both suspended and demoted because of this incident. He says nothing can bring her back, but he hopes that this can at least begin the healing process.
In the Monroe County Jail is facing new charges after deputies say he assaulted two sheriff's deputies. 37-year-old Evan Guzman was being held in the jail after being charged with murder in June of 2021. Officials tell us he was tampering with the fire suppression system in his cell.
22-year-old Albert Booz moved to the Monroe County Jail in July, and according to the Sheriff's Office incident report, two deputies received minor injuries while trying to break up a fight between Booz and another inmate inside a holding cell. According to that report, on September 29th, Booz stated that he would beat the inmate to death.
Once the fight started, deputies entered the cell, and that's when Booz ran out, grabbed a metal chair, and threw it at deputies and a nurse. The report goes on to say Booz headbutted one deputy, bit another, and tried to grab a taser when a third officer deployed it.
The Sheriff's Office says they are looking into allegations of official misconduct and reports of physical altercations between inmates. We've learned those involved in this case have been isolated to ensure the safety of everyone inside the jail facility, and an internal investigation has been launched. MCSO says they've also notified the State Commission of Corrections and the State Attorney General's office.
Early 2025 brought a troubling stretch for the Monroe County Jail in Rochester. After a series of inmate-on-inmate fights in the fall of 2024, one serious enough to require hospitalization, the Sheriff's Office launched an internal investigation into how the incidents were handled. Several deputies were suspended without pay while the probe moved forward, and the agency notified state oversight authorities and the Attorney General, signaling the seriousness of the situation. Officials emphasized that these clashes were not a riot and are not typical for the facility, but acknowledged they revealed both rising tensions among detainees and lapses by a small number of staff. By mid-2025, the disciplinary process had advanced, with resignations and misconduct findings underscoring a zero-tolerance stance on staff failures. Jail leaders said they were reinforcing use of force policies, tightening search protocols, and increasing supervisory reviews after fights, while expanding medical checks and separating aggressors to prevent retaliation. The picture that emerges is of a jail under pressure, but moving to restore order, addressing detainee violence on one side and shoring up accountability and training on the other.
Stephen Reed running free toward an unauthorized catwalk jailhouse tier shortly after attacking a correction officer inside the Suffolk County Jail in Riverhead.
1 punch, 2 punch, 3 punches.
Reed, an admitted Bloods gang member from Calverton awaiting trial for attempted murder during a candlelight vigil last July, overpowered the officer when he opened the gate to allow another inmate passage. Reed angry that the officer didn't deliver a bar of soap fast enough.
He has a laceration of the lip, swollen nose.
These defendants planned to smuggle into the Suffolk County Correctional Center through paper which were disguised as legal documents.
Each paper sprayed with liquid was worth $6,000 apiece inside the Suffolk County Jail.
Make no mistake, all is 20 times more the value inside of a jail or prison than it is on the street.
The sheets often divided into pieces to be ingested by inmates, according to District Attorney Ray Tierney.
We learned that a torn piece of paper as little as a credit card that is infused with can go for as much as $500 in the jail.
Text messages allegedly exchanged between one inmate's girlfriend and another woman, Alyssa Brienza, indicated the going rate on the outside for each paper sprayed was normally $400 to $500. But a state prisoner setting the price in Greenhaven Correctional Facility allegedly gave a break to the Suffolk County inmate. The girlfriend was allegedly told to text another inmate's attorney. Quote, "Mr. Eric Freeman told me to drop this paperwork for him off to you in the morning," the text to the lawyer said. Quote, "I'll be at the courthouse," the attorney replied, reportedly in the dark about the whole plot.
These 4 sheets of paper were going to be smuggled into the correctional facility through an unsuspecting attorney who thought he was merely delivering legal papers into the jail.
Suffolk County Correctional Facility, Riverhead, is one of Long Island's 2 county jails run by the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office. It primarily houses pre-trial detainees and short-term sentences and, together with the Yafank facility, has capacity for roughly 1,800 plus people across both jails. Riverhead has drawn scrutiny for safety and conditions. In May 2025, Suffolk County agreed to a class action settlement over unconstitutional conditions at its jails. Allegations included inadequate medical and mental health care, punitive isolation, and other systemic issues affecting people held at Riverhead and Yafank. Since then, the Sheriff's Office has reported stepped-up contraband interdiction, more searches, and policy changes under the settlement framework. But staff say tensions remain high due to the jail's steady intake of people facing violent charges, frequent movement for court transports, and a persistent flow of weapons and drugs hidden in mail or on body. Taken together, volatile populations, contraband pressure, and Riverhead's role as the county's primary pretrial hub, the facility is widely viewed as one of the region's more volatile county jails in recent years.
A man who was already in jail allegedly beat a fellow inmate, to death. Seditas said that 19-year-old Tyshawn Ball is being charged with second-degree. Law enforcement sources tell News 4 Ball punched an unnamed inmate in June. That unnamed inmate, I'm told, joined a fight already happening. I'm told once deputies broke up the fight, Ball attacked that unnamed inmate. That inmate apparently fell and hit his head. He died last month at the Erie County Home and Infirmary. That's in Alden. The fight inside the Erie County Holding Center happened just 2 days after Tyshawn Ball was arrested on arson and assault charges inside of his Buffalo home.
Well, Jeff, according to the Erie County Sheriff's Office, that inmate was found unresponsive on the floor of his cell last Wednesday, and he died at Buffalo General Medical Center late Friday. A spokesman for the Sheriff's Office says that inmate was under medical supervision after he had reported having medical issues on July 23rd, just 1 day before he was found unresponsive by jail deputies. A nurse did perform CPR until the ambulance arrived, and a pulse was discovered after about 30 minutes, at which point that inmate was transported to the hospital.
Officials say 35-year-old Elizabeth Claudia of Niagara Falls was brought into the holding center Friday morning after a court appearance in Buffalo for petty larceny. Claudia was put on detox observation that day and refused a medical visit later that night. The next morning, she was found in her cell without a pulse. After emergency medical response, she was pronounced dead. The sheriff's office tells News 4 there were no signs of trauma and no contraband found in her cell.
In July 2025, surveillance video from the Erie County Holding Center in Buffalo captured 2 back-to-back assaults by the same inmate on jail staff during meal service. On July 6th, deputies delivering lunch were blindsided when detainee Dominique Tabb rushed a female deputy, punching and kicking her repeatedly until backup intervened. The sheriff publicly called it a sickening, unprovoked assault. The next day, Tabb allegedly attempted to strike another deputy during meal rounds. Prosecutors charged Tabb with multiple felonies, including assault in the second degree for assaulting a peace officer, and she was held without bail pending a felony hearing. The Erie County District Attorney later released portions of the footage to the public as part of her office's charging announcement. The sheriff's office used the incidents to renew calls for changes in New York law and local policy, arguing current rules limit their ability to segregate persistently violent detainees and to deter repeat in-custody assaults on staff. While those specific proposals were not yet enacted, the episodes revived long-standing scrutiny of conditions at the holding center, which has faced years of outside criticism and litigation over inmate safety, suicides, and use of force oversight. Civil liberties groups have repeatedly pressed the county for transparency into jail operations and spending tied to defending or resisting investigations, illustrating how workplace safety for deputies and humane conditions for detainees sit in constant tension inside one of Western New York's busiest jails.
Across New York State, these jails reflect more than isolated outbreaks of violence. They reveal a deeper failure of oversight, infrastructure, and human dignity. At Rikers Island, control has literally been taken from the city's hands. In Nassau and Albany, corruption and brutality have shattered public trust. And in upstate counties like Monroe, Suffolk, and Erie, overcrowding and mental health crises fuel an endless cycle of conflict. For correctional officers, every shift carries the risk of ambush. For detainees, every day brings uncertainty over whether they'll make it to trial unharmed. Reform commissions have been formed, oversight boards appointed, and lawsuits filed, yet the bloodshed and despair persist. In the end, New York's jail crisis stands as both a warning and a demand. Until transparency, accountability, and humane policy replace neglect and brutality, these facilities will remain not just places of detention, but epicenters of danger within the state's justice system.